All right, here it is. Donald Trump and Xi Jinping to discuss lowering China tariffs for fentanyl crackdown. Now, we were expecting to get this on Tuesday. Oh, sorry, on Thursday. Today's Tuesday, right? We were expecting to get this on Thursday. So we're getting this 2 days earlier than expected, which is leading the market to get really excited here because we're getting good news earlier than expected. We're already expecting mostly bullishness out of Powell tomorrow, but we were expecting to get the China news on Thursday and potentially some skittishness before Thursday because of the anticipation of, oh, is Trump going to actually be able to pull this off? Here we are on Tuesday getting a present 2 days early. And so far it looks like I'm getting some headlines here because this is just now breaking news. Trump, Xi to discuss lowering China tariffs for fentanyl crackdown. U.S. would cut in half the 20% levies on Chinese goods imposed in retaliation for the export of chemicals that make deadly synthetic opioids. At the same time, NVIDIA unveils new quantum equipment to connect quantum processors with NVIDIA chips. Nice. Okay, so then we have, also now at the same time, you've got Israel bombarding Gaza. Now, one of the wings of Hamas is saying it will postpone Tuesday's handover of deceased hostage body it recovered because of now what they're saying are Israelis' violations. There's a lot going on right now. Okay, but let's look at this China news because this is what the good news is right now. The rest doesn't, the quantum computing part sounds good. The Israel Hamas thing doesn't sound good. It's hard to negotiate with the splinter cell, group. What do you got? Like 30 different Hamas groups out there right now? So there's no core leadership. How do you negotiate with that? But anyway, take a look at this. The U.S. would roll back some tariffs on China if Beijing cracks down on the export of chemicals that produce fentanyl. That's an easy win for China to pick up because they could easily say, oh yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, we'll crack down on crime and bad chemicals. Sure, yeah, we don't mind. China is expected to commit to more controls on the export of precursor chemicals. Of course, that's an easy win. So if Trump gives them an easy out to taco, then we get taco. What's the taco scale right now? Because it's basically going to go up. So if we go to meetkevin.com/data, we can see where the taco scale is. The taco scale right now is right here, 8.9 out of 10 on the taco scale. Pretty much, and I wrote Trump pretty much full taco on China. Okay, honestly, we're probably now at like a 9.2. I probably got to revise this up. We're even more taco now because this is such an easy out for China. Hey guys, we will lower our tariffs in half if you just promise to try a little harder on those deadly chemicals. Okay. All right. It's a deal then. We'll cut the tariffs in half. A synthetic opioid blamed for hundreds of thousands of drug overdoses. In return, the U.S. could cut fentanyl-related tariffs by as much as 10%. And that's pretty bullish. Bringing those, because that now brings your average tariff from like 55% down to 45% on China. There it is. That's the very next line. Currently around 55% down to 45%. Yep. That would put China's average tariff rate closer to those of other trading partners, potentially reducing the price competitiveness of manufacturing outside of China. Right, because that's what China doesn't want. People don't want to have to leave China and relocate, and China doesn't want that either because, well, frankly, China wants to be the manufacturing powerhouse of the world, so it's sort of a win for China. Makes sense. Goods from India and Brazil face a 50% tariff. Right, so that potentially prevents Apple from leaving Foxconn China to do Foxconn, India. The Trump administration has said Chinese goods shipped through the Southeast Asian nations would face a 40% tariff, higher than the 19 to 20%. The administration reached 2 trade agreements for frameworks with Southeast nations this week, including provisions that prevent China from exporting goods through at below market prices. That's fair. That's the trans-shipping argument. Fentanyl negotiations, a longstanding issue. I think, honestly, the fentanyl stuff was really just sort of a ruse to get negotiations going with China. Under the framework, China is also expected to commit to a significant purchases of American soybeans. Good. That's what they consistently had been doing. So now they just come back to do what they had previously done. Beijing imposed retaliatory tariffs. Chinese negotiators have insisted that China won't lift retaliatory duties and resume purchases of American soybeans until the fentanyl tariffs are removed. So who's actually winning here? So to me, it somewhat sounds like China is kind of getting what they want here. I'm curious to see if the Global Times, which is basically your Chinese propaganda, has anything to say about this. So, U.S.-Japan summit, China-India, this is the ASEAN protocols, fine. I don't actually see anything here with China and the United States yet, because this is just such breaking news. So I'll have to keep an eye on this. If agreed to, the framework would ease, because the Wall Street Journal probably got this leak from insiders in the Trump administration, and we don't have China's POV on this yet. But I anticipate China will roll on that. They'll gladly say, oh yeah, we'll work on those precursors. So that's going to be a win for China. And the U.S. is going to try to leverage them to drop their 20% retaliatory tariffs. Or their retaliatory tariffs. Here we go. If agreed, the framework would ease tensions. Earlier this month, China tightened controls on rare earths. In turn, Trump threatened another 100% tariff on China, which they've already tacoed on. Now, under the new framework, the U.S. expects China to delay new rare earth rules. I believe that they're going to delay that for a year. Dude, a taco a year! The expected deferral on China's latest rare earth controls. Well, keep in mind, China's smart about this. If China delays the rare earth sort of threat, yes, it buys the United States more time to produce their own rare earths, but it also takes pressure off of us to produce our own rare earths. Remember, in the Meet Kevin Alpha report, Schumer Siesta coupon code expires tomorrow.
Coupon linked below.
We called that MP material would run to 100 and reject 100. Is exactly what happened. And the trend has been down since then. Now we're hanging out right now at the 65, 78 line, roughly. It's just a basic fib retracement line over here. But there's a likelihood that if China does go for a year extension, it puts the pressure off of like rushing investments into MP. You probably, unfortunately, continue to see a bleed down on MP for the time being because it takes the pressure off. It's kicking the can down the road. It's like, it's not just 90 days anymore. It's literally a 12-month deferral. Chinese negotiators are expecting the U.S. to freeze potentially new policy actions deemed harmful to China. Right, so basically everything that we threatened against China, we'll just remove. So like what progress has been made? Who knows? But it's taco. I mean, that's what the stock market reacts to. It's been taco since April. That's why the stock market's been straight up since April. It's unclear how the framework would affect a different set of rare earth restrictions that Beijing announced in April. The established licensing system suggests that authorities could ramp up rare earth restrictions again. Of course, that just gives them leverage. And that's what the Chinese are doing. They're building that leverage so they can, that's why they're doing this licensing thing with companies and why they're trying to restrict US companies so that they can not only monitor where exports and imports are going and coming from, but so that they could quickly restrict them should they ever need to. This is China preparing for more, announcements from Trump. Okay, I mean, this is bullish earlier than we thought. Now, this is leaked information from the Journal, but it basically indicates that for very, very little from China, Donald Trump is essentially willing to roll. Now, it's good news, okay? But it kind of means that the Trump administration doesn't actually think they have much of a hand here because they're screwed on rare earths and they're screwed on soybeans, which hurt American farmers, which are like mostly Trump voters, right? So like Trump basically just has to roll back all of his nonsense to hopefully get China to roll back their retaliation. Who cares what that means? Like politically, this isn't meant to be like a jab at Trump or whatever. It's bullish. Remember, the caddies that we had this week were Powell tomorrow, Trump China on Thursday. If Trump is this willing to roll already in basically pre-announced negotiations to the Chinese, because that's what they're doing here. They leak it to the Wall Street Journal on purpose. So China can sit there and go, oh, look, the Wall Street Journal has update. I don't know why that sounds like German. But anyway, they go read the Wall Street Journal and they're like, all right, we've now pre-negotiated basically. Now there's very little left to do. Trump's basically walked on everything. So they go into the meeting and go, yeah, sure, we'll try harder on fentanyl. All right, we'll take down some of the tariffs. And so basically, we win the reduction of these tariffs. The stock market loves that. I mean, you might actually see some benefit to some of the furniture importers as well. Maybe less so because, you've got like Taiwan and some of the other countries that Restoration Hardware, for example, will use versus China. But yeah, I mean, look at that. You can clearly see Restoration Hardware. It's up from the 170s where it was about a week ago. And you can see that rotation here just on the Chinese trade deal, now up 4.9%. And is the classic beneficiary here of lower tariffs and a reduction of tariffs in the whole region. So this is good news way earlier than we expected. It's very bullish. And honestly, if you pair this with what you got with the ADP weekly numbers, we're not on a bad trend here. So if you download the Meet Kevin app, you'll see what I wrote about the ADP numbers this morning. But the ADP just started releasing weekly data, which is a game changer, right? Because we don't have like public data, BLS data. So now the ADP rugged the Fed and said, we're not going to secretly give you weekly data anymore. And then, a week later, they come out and they're like, JK, we're just going to give it to everybody. So ADP releases this report, and they basically tell us that jobs for the 4 weeks ending October 11th were 14,250, which is great. Because if you look at the September read, we had negative 32 on the ADP, but you have to kind of adjust, like add their adjustment back in. And if you add the adjustment back in that they made, which was 43,000 as an adjustment, if you add that back in, you were at actually 11,000 jobs for all of September. That 4-week average, so basically adding in the average of the first 11 days of October, moved us up to 14,000, which means jobs are not falling off a cliff. So if jobs are not falling off a cliff, and we're getting taco, and we're getting 25 BP of cuts, it's kind of bullish if you think about it. Like, none of that's bearish. Now, again, I still maintain the bearish part could be the government reopening, because then you'll actually get like a dual labor report. But think about this. Fed 25 BP, right? 25, what the hell? 25 BP, there we go. Fed 25 BP. Fed stop QT, okay, what is that? That's bullish. What's 25? That's bullish. That's priced in at like a 97% chance. What else is bullish? The Schumer siesta, ironically, continuing, is actually bullish. Why is it bullish? Because we don't get data. The Schumer siesta continuing is great. Now, in fairness, the Schumer siesta coupon code expires tomorrow. Which, it's probably a bullish thing because you can get in before the price goes up. You got time. But anyway, the Schumer siesta continuing is actually bullish. 25 BP is bullish. The China trade deal, China taco, is bullish, right? So what else is there? Now, the bad news, the only bad, 27 weeks unemployed, still rising. And then, of course, layoff announcements, which, Amazon got so much flack for. That's why they're now like branding it down as, well, I mean, it could be as low as 14,000. We don't want to make it seem like it's worse than 2022, even though it probably will be because they're laying off up to 30,000 workers. But broadly, I mean, who cares? Layoff announcements are going to take quite a while to actually trickle through the economy. This will be slow burn. So there's nothing like falling off a cliff here. Now, sometimes what you'll actually find is Treasury yields can sometimes go down when you get less of these tariff threats. Yeah, a little bit. 10-year Treasury down 1.2 bips. Why? Not uncommon because we see tariffs as inflationary, right? So, and that keeps bond yields up. So it increases your opportunity cost for bonds because inflation is higher. So broadly, this de-escalation is good. You're seeing that de-escalation in gold as well, back under, what are we at now, 39.69, so back under 4K. So broadly, this is a treat. This is a treat we just got well before expected. Look at this, up another 1 and a bit here on Restoration Hardware. The Qs were really doing nothing until this started coming out over here. We were trading mostly sideways. If anything, we were trading down for most of the day. And this is normal because we were preparing for, what's going to happen with the China deal on Thursday? Well, here we go. We're getting full taco. So it's great. Somebody writes here, net bullish, short, medium term. Totally agree. I don't mind the joke with taco, but how is it taco when the tariff remained and is only going down because China's negotiating and never went down until China came to the table? Confused. I don't even know what you're saying. I think what you're trying to say is it's going down because Trump and China are agreeing to talk. But like, let's be clear here. What we just read in the Wall Street Journal is very clear. All right, we'll start cutting tariffs down if you just promise to enforce crime a little bit more. It's an easy hit. It's an easy give up. That's my point. It shows the sincerity of being like really brutal to China isn't really that desirable. This isn't actually really about protecting American manufacturing, right? It's a game. That's such an easy give up. Let's see here. Nvidia, somebody writes Nvidia cruising. Yeah, they've got the event going on, which is exciting. The quantum chip as well. Nvidia now all-time highs. Apple across the $4 trillion market, which is pretty awesome. What else are y'all saying here? China loss. Yeah, I mean, let's see here. Somebody else says he needs them to buy soybeans. Right. So we'll see. We'll see. He says he's not tacoing out. It's a negotiating tactic. Well, I mean, yeah, but that's tacoing, right? Because the whole premise of taco is from a stock market point of view. I think people think that taco is supposed to be like offensive to Donald Trump. Remember, I said that. This has nothing to do with trying to suck the wiener of Trump. Like, I don't give a flying F about your politics. I care about the stock market. And from a stock market point of view, all taco says is these tariffs aren't going to last. Over time, they will go away. Whether they go away because Trump walks them back, seems to be very easy to do, or they go away because a new administration comes in and gets rid of them. They will go away eventually, and then we'll be facing, beautiful disinflation, hopefully deflation, and prices will actually come down. Although you have to be careful, because if you wish for too much deflation, you often you walk into an economic recession or depression. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, asking for prices to come down, right? So something to pay attention to right there. How else is the market moving now? So this should mean that TLT is up like 20 bips. The fact that it's actually green today on the eve of the Fed is great. You've got Axon up. Somebody here in the chat's mentioning figs, or not fig, talking about Figure. Figure Technology is up 6% today. Yeah, nice. This was one of the buys that I did a few weeks ago in the lower 30s. I think it was in the lower 30s, maybe mid 30s. But anyway, 40, 44, 45 bucks almost here. I think that's almost all-time highs. It's kind of cool. But anyway, so make sure to join the Meet Kevin Alpha Report, linked below, and get all the courses on building your wealth, as well as the Alpha Report every day the market is open. Could even be a tax write-off for you. Get a little end-of-the-year tax write-off in there.
Coupon linked below.
Kevin is very talented, but I don't know if it's going to be him, but he's a very talented guy.
Kevin's somebody would consider. Kevin is fantastic, too.
I think that Kevin's a brilliant guy, and I think that we'd all be very lucky to have him.
Kevin is much more interested than most people, by the way, in the balance sheet.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.